Hi guys, welcome back to the second episode of hashtag a career in tech. As mentioned in the previous video, in this sort of video I'll be talking about my internship experience. So yeah, let's crack on. So I did my internship at Panasonic Systems Communication Europe Customer Service, also known as PSCEU CS for short. And they've actually rebranded themselves to Panasonic Connected Europe now, if you want to follow them on LinkedIn. And my role was based in Cardiff, so that's where I worked for an entire year. So my role at Panasonic was an IoT solutions assistant. So I was involved in an early warning system. So this was a cloud platform built on a ThingWorks, and the purpose of that system was to act as a monitoring system for things like projectors and displays, to let you know when there's possible faults or certain parts that are going into retirement, so you could fix those parts, which means there's no downtime in those projectors or displays, so that the customers using those would be able to carry on using them and have no issues. It also means that, if there were any sort of parts coming to expiry, and maybe there's a show coming up or some sort of projector display, then you would be able to replace those and reduce downtime, which means the customer then means they lose no money, and provide that sort of service to let them know if there's any going wrong, allow for fault diagnosis remotely to help the customer fix their issues, and things like that. So my role in that was to improve the monitoring system and also set up any new customers that decided they wanted to be attached to that system via basically IoT connectivity. So building a gateway, configuring the gateway to set up with those projectors, and then that would get shipped off, they'd connect it up, and then I would connect it up on the cloud platform. So essentially that was my role at Panasonic. I'd like to note that it was Panasonic Business. If you actually research a bit about Panasonic, they have quite a few different departments, or I would like to say sub-businesses almost. So you've got Panasonic as the overall brand, then inside that you've got Panasonic Business, you've got Panasonic Automotive, and there's a couple of other ones I can't exactly remember what they are, and they are sub-brands of Panasonic. And this is important because I thought initially Panasonic was just batteries and TVs and sort of audio, but actually the industry I worked in, Panasonic Business, was a lot more geared towards other businesses, or business to business focused selling products. So we would be selling projectors, large projectors. These could go up to like hundreds of thousands of pounds. We'd be selling security, broadcast cameras, and PBX telephones. So that was the sort of what Panasonic Business was involved in. It was selling those products, and I'm sure there's a lot more products now, and other innovative solutions. Obviously in Europe they had one market, they had another market in America, and obviously in Japan they had a way bigger market for this sort of stuff. There'd be a lot of madness going on there, so many new things, cool things they were building there in the country, and I can probably show you some of that now. The reason I've got this sort of space over here is for images and stuff. And I'd like to mention that one of the cool things that Panasonic Business focused on, or Panasonic in general focused on in Japan, was how they could sort of renovate homes for old people. So what they would do is, instead of moving, so when you maybe get to an elderly age, it's more difficult to reach things, it's more difficult to shower in the shower you have, and use the bathroom, maybe your stairs aren't friendly, or other sort of parts in your house. And what they would do is they would come in and renovate the entire house to be more accessible for elderly people. And that's by, maybe they would have storage in the kitchen, but instead of reaching and opening cupboards, you'd click a button and that would bring the plates down. You'd have a lot of storage hidden away, a lot of safety features. There would even be like baths that sort of went into the floor, the one wall, and that would come up again if you wanted a bath, so you wouldn't actually have to step out. You could step in, bath, let the water drain, and step back out again. And that stuff was amazing. So now that I've given you a bit of background about Panasonic Business, and my role initially of what my role entailed, I would like to go down the downs, the ups, the main projects I did, and conclude on that. Obviously this is all my experience at Panasonic, and I would like to share that with you guys through an internship, to let you guys know what you could possibly expect on your internship. I would like to say the salary was quite generous for my internship. I was based in Cardiff, as you know. I'm not going to give the exact salary, but let's say it ranged between 17 and 21k. So we'll start with the downs. only because there are very few and they are very minor. So the first thing I'd like to mention is that because I was the second intern there, it did start off a bit slow. The previous intern before me focused on a business plan for the sort of early warning system, where it could be used, where they could develop business in Europe, and sort of building a use case for it. I came in to develop the system more and also help it be more sort of Europe friendly. And because obviously when they built it in Japan, there might be things they didn't consider, which we like in the Western sort of culture, which will make it more appealing, or maybe the user experience would be more better. So anyway, the actual sort of internship started off a bit slow. I remember the first month was a bit slow. It was very much learning. You know, every company sometimes has its problems, but getting my gear set up, the laptop, etc., that took some time. So the first month was quite slow in terms of getting started. That was one of the downs to my sort of internship. A lot of people might say, great, 1 month free money, but I was very much ready to get stuck in. The second down, which is kind of a down, but for me was very positive, is that there was no real direction for my role. So my boss kind of laid out the table to me and went kind of almost, do what you need to do, as if I was the expert. And I'm someone who has grown up on direction. I've never really been sort of given, here's the doors open, go do something. It's very much been, here's a task, go do it. So that was very different for myself. And I found it very weird at first, but in that environment, you become very much a self-starter, and that's really helped me moving forward with my career. And although that might have been a down at the time because I didn't have a clue what I was doing, now it's become a very much positive attribute that I've gained in terms of being a self-starter, being able to go, if nobody gives me work, I know I'm looking for work, I know exactly what needs to be done, I know key things that I can do to improve, or work that I can find that would improve, maybe my efficiency in my role, or other things that would improve efficiencies in other parts of the business, which would in turn help, the overall organization, or maybe my department, or even my team, or even myself, to be more efficient in my role. The final down point that I would like to say, again, like I said, there's not many downs, so there's a lot more ups, is that I think this was probably the biggest one for me, is that I always had to be in office. So because of where I was based, we had factory regulations, we operated under the factory HR, and because of that, it was seen as almost unfair that we would be allowed to work from home if they had to come into work. I know that sounds a bit backwards and weird, but that was just how the sort of HR operated and how it operated there. So I respect that decision, and I can't say it was a bad thing. I definitely enjoyed being in the office around the people. It was nice, but I think it would have been nice to, occasionally work from home, maybe once a week, or even, a couple of days a month or something. And I felt like I definitely missed out on that, but I guess can't complain now. Pandemic has come in and wiped all that, and I'm basically working from home all the time now anyway. So I'm kind of glad in hindsight that I did have the office experience, because otherwise I would have been always working from home and I may have not appreciated that. So yeah, right, well, the ups. So there's a lot here. I'm very fortunate. In my internship, it was definitely a very, very valuable experience, and these ups may not be in everyone's internship, but for me they were. I'm very, very grateful for that. So we're gonna get started. The first major sort of benefit, or the main point of my internship that I always remember, while being traveling to Japan. Yes, I was very lucky to actually travel to Japan with the company. All expenses paid. It was amazing. I've never really been to another country. I've always been to Bangladesh personally, because that's where I'm from ethnically, to see family. And also I went to Saudi Arabia once to perform a religious pilgrimage called Umrah. So apart from that, I actually haven't been anywhere else in the world. So to go to Japan was amazing for me. It was a new experience, a new culture, and it was amazing. So I'll pop up some pictures. I'm just going to quickly look through the itinerary, because I can't remember exactly what I did, but briefly, we went to Shin Yokohama at first. So we landed in Tokyo, went there to stay there. After Shin Yokohama, we went to Osaka. After Osaka, we went to Fukuoka, and then we went back to Shin Yokohama, and then we caught the plane back. So in total, we were there for I think 7 days. So it was 1 bullet train and 2 internal flights. It was amazing. And yes, I'll get my itinerary up and explain a bit more about what I did there. So actually, when I was there, we went obviously for business purposes. I did have one day of free reign. We went to travel. We had a look. Went on cable carts and all this other cool stuff. Went to Tokyo. Went to the different districts, and it was really nice. But yeah, we went to the Panasonic Center, which I believe was in Tokyo. And then when we went to Osaka, that was where I met my colleagues who I was working with. So that's where I got introduced to CARES. Put an image here of CARES was actually the early warning system. That's what we called it, the package. And I went to basically meet other business units like security and like PBX. So they had similar sort of version of the early warning system. I wanted to see how they were using it, and they would take my ideas and my input and how we could use that, or I would take their ideas into how we could take what they built and integrate into their systems, and how we could use it in our systems, and how I could make that better when going back to the UK. So the original sort of reason I went there was to sort of learn about these business units, meet other people, and get a more well-rounded sort of understanding of what was the capabilities of the platform were. And in doing that, whilst doing that, I met a lot of great people, a lot of respectful people, a new culture, and I really embraced it. It was really amazing. The colleagues over there were very welcoming, and it was great. And I had to go over there and earn their trust to obviously have admin access to the systems, and we did that as well. They were great. So hopefully, whilst talking through that, I've just had a bunch of images floating around of a couple of places I went in Japan. One of my main regrets was actually not taking more pictures. I'm not a very picture person. I'm not even like a video person, so doing all this is kind of new to me. But yeah, I wish I took more pictures. The second major up was actually traveling to Amsterdam. So yeah, I got to go to Japan and I got to Amsterdam. First time in Europe. We went there for what was it called? We went there for ISE 2019, I would like to say, or 2018, I can't remember. So ISE is Integrated Systems Europe, so massive, loads of companies went there, huge companies, Canon, LG, Samsung, Panasonic, and it was all to do with mainly audiovisual, it was sort of the audiovisual side of things, so projectors and displays and the audio side of things, and a couple of other cool things in another section. I'll throw up some images here of Amsterdam. Again, I wish I took more photos so I explain this better, but essentially it's a massive show for business-to-business companies to show their new technologies they were going to release in the near future and how they could be utilised and for everyone to share, basically. So actually the main reason I went to Amsterdam is because I actually developed a local website to do presentations on rather than a PowerPoint, because I thought that would be a lot more cooler, a lot more interactive when talking to customers or consumers at the event. So I'll put a picture here as well of what that looked like on one screen. Obviously I won't take you through it, but that's essentially what I did. So I made that and I made sure I went to set that up so that it was working, and if there were any issues I'd resolve that there on the day. Another benefit of my internship was I learned a lot about IoT. Prior to that internship I barely knew anything about IoT. So IoT stands for the Internet of Things. IoT is basically everything. It's your phone, it's your Apple Watch, it's anything like Alexa, Google, Home, all those things, anything that's sort of connected to the internet is part of IoT, and it's all about having this integrated sort of technology with the internet to add solutions to things. So one of the things I did in my final year of university regarding my dissertation was actually regarding IoT, and I got all the ideas from my internship, so it really helped me understand the benefits of IoT, and then I could use that in my dissertation. And I was actually supposed to go to Borneo, but due to COVID that was cancelled. Briefly, for my IoT, I made a IoT device with an Arduino, which was to monitor traps. So what they were doing on Borneo was capturing endangered species, and they wanted to basically create something that would alert the researchers when an animal was captured so they could release them as quickly as possible, and also that would help them research and understand the environment and make sure that these endangered species could sort of survive and flourish and they could learn more about them, and the environment within them to help them get to that. So that was part of the project. That's what IoT would bring. So it was a little Arduino piece with a couple of sensors on it, vibration, sound, etc. Did some testing to see what sort of results would give what, and then when those sort of conditions were met, it would send an SMS text message off to the researchers to let them know that trap so and so has been activated, and that way they could go take a look. Just to give an overall idea, the benefits this would add is obviously, instead of them checking the traps 2-3 times a day, they would just wait on alerts. It would mean that the animals inside would get to be released a lot earlier, which could save them from slight dehydration, etc., especially in the hot environment, and also a lot of saving costs because they had to go up the river there on a boat, and that would cost petrol and everything. So it was about saving their costs so they could spend more money on the research and helping the animals rather than petrol just going up and down the river checking the traps. So I learned a lot about business working in the customer service side of things. I wasn't directly on the phones or anything, but I was part of a managed service. I find that very important because a managed service is where a lot of companies make their money now. Selling a product is one thing. Selling a managed service or contractual service is a repeatable income for a business, and it's very important that businesses have these, because if you sell a product one year you might get 6,000 sales, if you sell it next year you might get 3,000 sales. It fluctuates a lot, and to understand that selling services is a very important aspect of businesses, because you get this if you have 600 subscriptions, that this is going to come in every single time at this year, etc. if the contract's for 2-3 years, so you have a better understanding of managing this sort of financial side of things, and that's why managed services and selling these services is very important. And I learned a lot about managed services and building contracts and what it means to supply a managed service and the benefits of it and how to provide a good managed service. I learned a lot about that at Panasonic, and although this isn't something that might be tech related, even though it's business related, it's very important, because the more you understand about these skills and the overall high level understanding, it means you'll be able to get to a higher level further in your career, because you've got a well-rounded experience of all these things. So it'll help you in the future if you decide to go for some managerial role or product owner role. You could build these managed services for companies, and you will know how to provide a good managed service. So I also learned a lot about hardware, so projectors, broadcast cameras, audio security and PBX. There was a workshop there, the amazing guys, they would be fixing them. So I learned a lot about the prisms and lumens and how the light is generated in the projectors and projected out. I've forgotten quite a lot of it, I'm going to be honest, but at the time it was very interesting learning about how they fix these projectors and all the components inside. I find it very interesting because I still do like building PCs, I just don't have the time, and I've built a lot of PCs, and same with cars, all about components and stuff. I love how these everything interacts together to give you the perfect image. So that was very interesting, something I learned. Again, another very high positive sort of experience in my internship was being around an amazing team and having an amazing boss. So I won't mention their last names, but my boss was David. He was amazing. I had a team around me. Although we were all doing different things, they were just so welcoming and friendly. We all had a bit of banter in the office. It was great working there, never a dull day. So we had James, we had Issa, we had Reese, we had Joe and Anne-Maria. Those were my team. And then my manager was David, and then there was the other sort of managers in the room, which were Don and a Chris, and another person called Stephen, who I didn't really speak to that much, but again, all great people. And then on the sort of other side of the room, we had the service desk, a bilingual service desk, because we managed Europe. We had to have Spanish speakers, Italian speakers, Swedish speakers, and again, all of these people were amazing, very welcoming, very great. It was a great sort of, I'd say, atmosphere in terms of everyone got along. Obviously everything has its flaws and people weren't unhappy with certain things, but that happens everywhere. But the main thing was everyone was really nice. So this experience made me a very confident person. I was very shy before this. I think it helped me bring a part out of myself that I didn't know existed. I became a lot more confident. I became a lot more, I was able to speak a lot better. And on top of that, I just learned that I was capable of more. Prior to my internship, when one of my projects I'll speak about in a bit is building an API. I wasn't very good at coding at university. I did struggle a bit through second year, but this internship allowed me to excel in my skills and really sort of show me that, yeah, actually at uni I did learn a lot of things and I can understand that and actually put it into practice now. So those things that I never knew existed built up in me during my internship, and I think if I went straight to third year, I definitely would have struggled in my degree. And expanding on that, not only that, it's definitely helped me get to where I am today, secure my first role after uni, helped me get to McLaren, all these things I learned at Panasonic because of the amazing team around me and the amazing experiences I was, or opportunities I was given, helped me get to where I am today. And I'll never forget that that was the first stepping stone in my sort of career. And because I had such an amazing boss and team, and the opportunities they gave me, like going abroad, and being self-sufficient and not being micromanaged, it's really allowed me to get to where I am today. And I will always remember that team, and it'll be very hard for any company to beat that experience because it was so amazing. Lastly, I'd like to talk about the projects. So the largest project I did was integration between the early warning system and Salesforce. So Salesforce is a case managing system. So what would happen is, if anything sort of came in on the system, because we wanted the early warning system to be used as more as a visual and not actually a managed thing on there, anything that would sort of happen on there, I integrated it so that it would create a case of Salesforce, and then that would be a sort of bi-directional communication. Then anything updated on Salesforce would update there. If there's any sort of updates on that, it would bring it over there with sort of notes and stuff. So that's one of the biggest projects I did. That's where I learned a lot. Another project I did was actually adding a new device to the early warning system. So imagine you have a projector and there's a thing called a bright sign player. This would allow media to run on the projector, but if there was a fault with the bright sign player and not the projector, we wouldn't be able to diagnose that. So what we did is we connected the bright sign up to the API. We looked at the API specs for the Brightsign player, and then using the platform, we connected the cloud platform to be able to call the API calls to get data from that and built this specification on the system and added it to the system then. So then we knew that this projector was connected to this Brightsign player, and if there's any faults on that Brightsign player, it would show up, letting us know that the projector is actually fine, there's something wrong with the player instead. So just adding for additional diagnosis in the system. So as mentioned, I created a local website presentation for the Amsterdam. That was something I did out of my own initiative, so that was great. Didn't take too long, but obviously we had to get a lot of information in there and do a bit of recording and the images. So that was one of the projects I got involved in. Not really that tech related, more marketing, but again, I pushed myself to experience all different parts of the business, because the more understanding you have of a business, whether it's marketing, whether it's business, whether it's technology related, you can then develop solutions that are holistically, make everything operate more holistically over all departments, because you understand how all the departments work and processes. So you're not just thinking of this would work in an IT way, but actually this would work for IT, marketing and business. So you can create all these processes. Lastly, there was actually a branding sort of project opportunity that I got involved in a little bit. I'm not going to mention too much because it didn't seem to actually flourish, but it was quite interesting getting involved with this branding and understanding how, they wanted to create a similar thing to AppleCare. So instead of Panasonic, sort of customer service, they wanted to create some sort of almost its own branded side of that managed service where they provide the extra support and warranties and the early warning system. They wanted to have some branding behind it, similar to AppleCare, but I'm not going to go into that too much. But again, that was very interesting to learn because it was all about branding. So I know this has been a bit of a long one, but in conclusion, my internship experience was great. There was basically nothing wrong with it. I was very fortunate. I would highly advise anyone who's in between their second and third year looking for an internship, or isn't looking for an internship, to try and look for an internship. I think it's very beneficial. It'll definitely help you in career.
제가 오늘 선생님에게 그 좋은 기회를 드리고자
help you in your career and also, sorry, I've just lost track, and also help you in your third year of university, whether it's your dissertation or whether it's other things. It just gives you that extra boost. It also gives you a year out of studying, which I really appreciated. So I definitely think it's a good thing to do. But yeah, that was my experience. That was my internship experience at Panasonic. Again, overall, it was great. The people were great, and the journey was great. If I had an opportunity to go back to the company in the future, I would definitely consider it, depending on the role. So yeah, that's my video on my internship experience. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you give it a like and a comment. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. If you like the cars, if you like cars, check out my other content. Otherwise, the next episode from this will be probably my current role. Whether that's regarding exactly what I do in terms of service now, which is a hint, or my actual role, which is the company that I'm at, which I'll reveal in the next video, that's yet to be decided. But thank you for watching, guys. Peace out.